Behind closed doors, Anne also managed the quiet weight of illness. Living with a rare autoimmune condition demanded adjustments she rarely spoke about publicly. She chose not to let it define her identity or limit her purpose. Even as her body slowed, her commitment never did. She kept showing up, continuing to teach, continuing to encourage, continuing to laugh. To those watching closely, her strength was evident not in denial, but in perseverance. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Anne's impact on television reshaped how audiences viewed cooking shows. She wasn't interested in perfection or pretense. She believed food was meant to be enjoyed, mistakes included. On competition stages and instructional sets alike, she balanced intensity with empathy, demanding effort while offering belief. Viewers didn't just learn recipes. They learned confidence. They learned that growth begins the moment fear steps aside. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Through it all, Anne remained unmistakably herself. Loud when needed. Gentle when it mattered. Focused always on teaching others to trust their instincts. Her legacy isn't frozen in reruns or awards. It lives in every person who steps into a kitchen feeling braver because she once told them they could. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Asterisk, asterisk, as time moved forward, Anne Burrell's presence seemed to echo rather than fade. Her voice lingered in familiar phrases. Her lessons were played in the minds of those she taught, directly or from afar. Cooking shows continued to air, but they felt different now, almost like time capsules preserving her laughter, her impatience with excuses, and her unwavering belief that anyone could learn if they tried. What once felt like entertainment slowly transformed into remembrance. Each episode became a reminder of how effortlessly she connected with people she would never meet, offering encouragement that reached far beyond the frame of the screen. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Anne's teaching style had always been unmistakable. She didn't coddle, but she cared deeply. She pushed people past the limits they set for themselves, sometimes raising her voice, sometimes offering a quiet nod that meant more than applause. Those who trained under her often spoke about the moment they realized she wasn't trying to intimidate them. She was trying to wake them up, to show them that skill grows from confidence and confidence grows from action. Her kitchens were classrooms of discipline, but also of belief. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Her influence stretched beyond students and viewers into the broader culinary world. Fellow chefs recognized her not only for her skill, but for her authenticity. Anne never pretended to be someone she wasn't. She cooked food that reflected her personality, bold, unapologetic, and deeply rooted in tradition. She respected technique, but refused to worship it blindly. Flavor mattered more than flash. Honesty mattered more than approval. In an industry often driven by image, she remained grounded in substance. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Behind the scenes, Anne was also a mentor in quieter ways. She offered guidance without seeking credit, support without announcement. Young cooks found doors opening because she believed in their potential. Colleagues leaned on her advice during uncertain moments. Her generosity didn't require recognition. It simply required opportunity. That same philosophy shaped her final plans, ensuring that her success would continue to create pathways for others long after she was gone. Comment 55 or Right Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. The scholarships she established carried her spirit forward in the most tangible way. Aspiring chefs, many from backgrounds historically overlooked, were given a chance to train, learn, and dream without the weight of impossible barriers. For each recipient, Anne's legacy became personal. Her name was no longer just associated with television, but with possibility. Every knife skill practiced, every sauce perfected, became part of a living tribute. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Her generosity extended beyond education. Animal shelters, former staff, and individuals who had quietly supported her journey found themselves remembered in her final wishes. These gestures spoke volumes about how she viewed success. To Anne, achievement meant lifting others as you climbed. It meant remembering who stood beside you when applause was absent. In giving thoughtfully and intentionally, she offered one final lesson about gratitude and responsibility. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Even her home reflected that philosophy. The herb garden she cherished became more than a private retreat. It transformed into a place of learning, reflection, and continuity. There, surrounded by the scents and textures she loved, her ashes rest, grounding her memory in the earth that fueled her passion. It is a space not of mourning alone, but of growth, where future cooks can feel connected to the woman who believed so deeply in the power of food to bring people together. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Public conversation sparked by Anne's passing reached beyond culinary circles. Discussions about the pressures of visibility, the cost of constant performance, and the quiet battles carried by those who seemed strongest gained renewed urgency. Her story became a reminder that success does not shield anyone from struggle, and that compassion should never be withheld simply because someone appears resilient. In this way, her life continued to teach, urging others to look more closely, listen more carefully, and care more deeply. Comment 55 or rate Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. For Stuart Claxton, the days that followed unfolded in private grief. While the world reflected on Anne's legacy, he navigated the emptiness left behind, holding memories that belonged only to them. His role shifted from partner to protector of her story, ensuring that the woman he loved was remembered not just for her fame, but for her kindness, humor, and humanity. Through his quiet strength, Anne's memory remained anchored in truth rather than speculation. Comment or write R.I.P. Stuart Claxton to honor them. Anne Burrell's life reminds us that influence doesn't require perfection, only presence. She showed up fully, spoke honestly, and gave generously. Her journey was filled with triumphs and trials, laughter and fatigue, confidence and vulnerability. Yet through it all, she remained committed to her craft and to the people it served. That commitment is what endures, long after the noise fades. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Asterisk, asterisk, as the months unfolded. Anne Burrell's story settled into something deeper than shock or speculation. It became a reflection of how one life, lived with intention, can ripple outward in ways never fully measured. People returned to her episodes not out of habit, but out of comfort. Watching her cook now felt like sitting with an old friend, one who told the truth plainly and believed you were capable, even when you doubted yourself. Her voice carried reassurance. Her presence reminded viewers that mistakes were not failures, just steps toward something better. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Anne's strength had always come from authenticity. She never softened herself to fit expectations. In a world that often asks women to be quieter, more agreeable, more polished, she chose honesty instead. That choice wasn't always easy, but it was powerful. Young chefs, especially women entering demanding kitchens, saw in Anne proof that success didn't require shrinking. It required skill, resilience, and the courage to remain true to yourself even when it would be easier not to. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Her leadership extended beyond instruction. Anne modeled accountability. She owned her missteps, acknowledged disappointment, and kept going. When projects didn't unfold as planned, she didn't hide from the experience. She learned from it. That transparency resonated deeply with those watching. It showed that setbacks are not endings, but redirections. Through her example, Anne taught that progress is built not on perfection, but on persistence. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them in classrooms and kitchens alike. Her influence could be felt in the way people approached their craft. Students repeated her lessons not as rigid rules, but as guiding principles. Trust your instincts. Taste everything. Stand by your work. These weren't just cooking tips. They were life philosophies disguised as kitchen advice. Anne understood that food was a language, and she spoke it fluently, using it to communicate confidence, care, and courage. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. The culinary world paused to acknowledge what it had lost. Tributes surfaced from peers who had shared kitchens, sets, and stages with her. They remembered not only her skill, but her generosity, the way she made space for others, the way she encouraged emerging voices, the way she remained curious even after decades of success, and never acted as though she had nothing left to learn, and that humility deepened the respect she earned. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Fans continued to share stories of personal transformation. Someone who once feared cooking now hosted family dinners with pride. Someone who felt invisible found confidence through the simple act of trying. These stories weren't about fame. They were about connection. Anne's gift was making people feel seen, capable, and worthy of effort. She met people where they were and asked them to believe they could go further. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. The news arrived softly at first, then all at once, rippling through kitchens and living rooms like a sudden hush. Anne Burrell, the flame-haired force of nature who taught millions to cook without fear, was gone. On June 17th, 2025, at the age of 55, the woman known for bold flavors, sharper instincts, and an unmistakable laugh left this world, leaving behind an absence that felt far larger than any screen could contain. Her presence had always been commanding, but her impact ran deeper than television fame. Anne lived loudly in public, yet built a private world of purpose, discipline, and generosity that few fully saw until the end. When the details of her estate quietly surfaced, it wasn't the numbers that stopped people cold. It was the intention. Letters written with care, messages filled with warmth, gifts chosen not for spectacle but for meaning. In her final act, Anne spoke not with words, but with gratitude, foresight, and love. She had always been instantly recognizable. The spiked platinum hair, the direct gaze, the refusal to sugarcoat anything that didn't deserve it. Anne didn't believe in perfection. She believed in flavor, confidence, and showing up fully. Long before the cameras, she earned her place. The hard way, starting at the bottom, moving through the relentless hierarchy of professional kitchens where mistakes were costly and respect was earned inch by inch. Each step shaped her, sharpening not only her skills, but her resolve. When her opportunity arrived in 2005 on Iron Chef America, she wasn't just another face in the kitchen. As a sous chef, she brought urgency, wit, and an unmistakable edge that audiences couldn't ignore. By 2008, she stepped into her own spotlight, guiding viewers through restaurant-level cooking with clarity and confidence. She made the complicated feel achievable, the intimidating feel familiar. But it was her long-running role transforming kitchen disasters into capable cooks that sealed her place in homes everywhere. Her style was firm but fair, demanding but deeply human. She didn't just correct mistakes, she rebuilt belief. For Anne, cooking was never about showing off. It was about empowerment, about teaching people to trust themselves. Her words became kitchen commandments, reminding everyone that good food didn't need to be precious, just honest. Away from the applause, Anne carried challenges she rarely shared. She lived with a rare autoimmune condition that weakened her body, even as her spirit stayed fierce. Still, she kept teaching, filming, encouraging. Even near the end, she showed up, slower perhaps, but still smiling, still generous, still unmistakably herself. At the time of her passing, her financial success reflected decades of work, but her true legacy was how she chose to give it away. Scholarships opened doors for future chefs. Quiet donations lifted shelters and students. Even her garden, where her ashes now rest, was shaped into a place of learning. Anne didn't just leave behind memories. She left momentum. Her life was a declaration that passion and discipline can coexist, that generosity can be intentional, and that confidence can be taught. Though the kitchens feel quieter without her, the lessons remain, echoing every time someone dares to try again. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. In the early chapters of Anne's televised rise, one name stood beside her during a pivotal moment. Mario Batali was already an established figure when Anne stepped into the high-pressure world of Iron Chef America. Working as a sous chef in that environment demanded speed, precision, and uncheckable composure. It was a proving ground, and Anne proved herself there, matching intensity with skill and carving out her own identity in a space where hesitation had no place. That experience didn't define her, but it refined her, preparing her for the leadership and authority she would later embody on her own shows. The collaboration marked a turning point, one that helped launch her into the national spotlight and set the stage for everything that followed. Comment or write Mario Batali to honor them. Behind the public figure was a private life built on companionship and trust. Stuart Claxton, Anne's husband, shared a love that arrived later, steady and grounding. Their partnership was not about spectacle, but about balance. When the unthinkable happened, it was Stuart who discovered her unresponsive, a moment that shattered his world and sent shockwaves far beyond their home. Suddenly, grief unfolded under a public microscope, with questions pressing in from every direction. Yet amid the noise, one truth remained clear. Their bond was real, supportive, and deeply felt. As the world searched for explanations, Stuart faced the impossible task of mourning privately while standing at the center of a story the public desperately wanted to understand. Through it all, he became a quiet guardian of Anne's memory, carrying forward the dignity and love they had built together. Comment or write R.I.P. Stuart Claxton to honor them. Asterisk, asterisk, the silence that followed Anne Burrell's passing was heavy, filled with unanswered questions and a collective ache that stretched far beyond her inner circle. For those who had watched her for years, it felt impossible that someone so vibrant, so relentlessly alive, could simply be gone. The shock didn't fade quickly. Instead, it lingered, deepening into reflection. People replayed her laughter and their minds remembered the way she moved through a kitchen with fearless authority, and wondered how such energy could disappear overnight. The public searched for clarity for a reason that might soften the blow, but clarity did not arrive. What remained was the reality of loss, raw and unresolved, and the realization that even the brightest presences can vanish without warning. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Music, as the days passed, the focus slowly shifted from the mystery surrounding her final moments to the truth of how she lived. Stories emerged not as headlines, but as memories. Former students spoke of her patience when cameras were off. Colleagues remembered moments of quiet encouragement between takes. Fans recalled the courage they found simply by watching her insist that mistakes were part of the process. Anne's life began to feel larger than the circumstances of her death. It became a reminder that influence is measured not by how loudly someone is mourned, but by how deeply they are missed. Her absence revealed just how many lives she had touched without ever knowing their names. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Music. Long before fame found her, Anne Burrell was a small-town girl from Cazenovia, New York, shaped by a family kitchen filled with warmth and tradition. Food for her was never about prestige. It was about connection, about the simple power of sharing a meal and the joy that came from feeding people you love. Those early experiences planted a seed that would grow into a lifelong calling. Anne didn't dream of shortcuts or instant recognition. She dreamed of mastery. That dream pushed her far beyond the comfort of her hometown and into a world that demanded everything she had to give. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Music. Her journey took her overseas, into demanding Italian kitchens where expectations were brutal and standards unforgiving. There, she learned discipline, resilience, and self-trust. She stood her ground in environments that tested her strength daily, absorbing not only technique, but toughness. Every long shift, every critical glance, every moment of doubt became part of her foundation. When she returned to New York, she was no longer just passionate. She was prepared. She brought with her a confidence that didn't ask permission and a style that refused to blend into the background. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Back in the city, Anne climbed steadily, leading respected kitchens and earning admiration for food that was bold, rustic, and unmistakably hers. She wasn't interested in trends or imitation. She cooked with instinct, letting flavor lead the way. That authenticity translated effortlessly to television. When audiences first saw her, they didn't just see a chef. They saw someone real, someone unfiltered. Her presence cut through the polish that defined much of food television, offering something more honest and approachable. Anne didn't perform confidence. She embodied it. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Asterisk, asterisk, as her visibility grew, so did the pressure. Life in the spotlight brought scrutiny that followed her beyond the kitchen. Relationships, career, moves, and personal setbacks were often discussed publicly, whether she invited that attention or not. Yet Anne continued forward, refusing to let outside voices dictate her worth. Even when ventures didn't succeed as planned, she met disappointment head-on, learning, adjusting, and starting again. Her resilience wasn't dramatic. It was consistent. She believed failure was part of growth, not a verdict on ability. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. Love eventually found her in a way that felt steady rather than explosive. With Stuart Claxton, Anne discovered partnership that grounded her. Their connection wasn't about headlines or grand gestures. It was about mutual respect and shared calm. For someone who spent much of her life in high-intensity environments, that balance mattered. Together, they built a life rooted in support, showing that love doesn't always arrive early, but often arrives right on time. Comment or write R.I.P. Stuart Claxton to honor them. Her legacy also lived on through the institutions she touched. Programs she supported carried forward her philosophy of inclusion and access. By investing in future chefs, Anne ensured that her influence would continue evolving, shaped by new voices and fresh perspectives. Each success story, born from those opportunities, became another chapter in her ongoing impact. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. For Stuart Claxton, remembrance was quieter, more personal. While the world celebrated Anne's public legacy, he carried the private moments that never reached an audience. Shared meals, shared silence, shared understanding. In honoring her wishes and protecting her memory, he became a bridge between the woman the world adored and the partner he loved. Through his care, her story remained grounded in truth and respect. Comment or write R.I.P. Stuart Claxton to honor them. Anne Burrell's journey reminds us that purpose is not defined by how loudly one is remembered, but by how deeply one is felt. Her lessons endure in kitchens filled with laughter, in meals shared without fear, and in hands that move with confidence because she once insisted they could. Her presence may no longer fill a room, but her influence continues to shape it. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them. This was not simply the end of a life, but the continuation of a legacy built on courage, generosity, and unwavering authenticity. Anne's story continues wherever someone chooses to try, to learn, and to believe in themselves just a little more. Comment 55 or write Rip Anne Burrell to honor them.